Hi there, I'm Mindy Jensen.
And I'm Carl Jensen.
And this is the Mindy
and Carl
on Money podcast, where we talk about what happens after you reach financial independence.
After you reach financial independence, you start talking like this. Do you hear me talking different?
Yeah, why are you being a weirdo?
It's my radio voice, WKQX. Okay. Anyway, why do we call this show Mindy on Money?
Because Mindy
and Carl
have a super cool financial independence story, and you should totally listen to the podcast.com. Didn't fit on that bumper sticker.
Ooh, yeah, it would have to be real tiny, and people would have to tailgate you to read that one, so that would not be good.
And they'd be so fascinated they might rear end you. No thanks.
No thanks.
That's my line. All right, on this episode of the Mindy
and Carl
on Money podcast, Carl and I share our origin story, which sounds kind of like sci-fi, right? The origin story?
It does. Is this a sci-fi podcast?
It sure isn't.
Battlestar Mindy Lactica or something? Mindy,
whoa, that just rolls right off the tongue.
Mindy lactating? That would be a...
Oh, you can't say
no,
that.
No, that'd be a mom podcast.
Oh, don't be gross.
It's beautiful. It's motherly.
I'm done with you. Okay. All right. We also share some of our favorite resources.
But before we get started, let's take a quick break. Today's episode is sponsored by us. What?
That's right, Carl. Today's episode of Mindy
and Carl
on Money is sponsored by the Mindy
and Carl
on Money podcast. We'd like you to subscribe to the show, which you can do by going to mindyonmoney.com/subscribe. And while episodes usually come out on Wednesdays, every once in a while we'll have a bonus episode, and you can stay on top of everything by subscribing.
Great. Moving on, let's talk about us some more.
I don't like your radio voice. Just do your regular voice.
Okay, I won't talk that way anymore.
Okay, way back in 2012, we were living the good life. We had just moved to a new house in a much lower cost of living state. We were frugal. I was a stay-at-home mom, and you were working at a job that was stressful. And then somebody at work missed something, and you freaked out. Is that a good origin story?
Yes. Well, that is just the start of it. That doesn't tell anyone much of anything. Yeah, my job was stressful, and then all of a sudden it got even more stressful. I remember I lost like 10 pounds in a week. I thought I was going to throw up hovering over the toilet. It was not good. I did not enjoy my job at that time. This led me to Google, how do I retire early? And I didn't think Google would provide me with any useful information. It was just a Hail Mary on my part. But up came the Mr. Money Mustache blog, and I saw this thing. I'm like, what is this? What kind of weird thing have I landed on? Is this some kind of weird scam? This weird mustache guy said he quit like when he was 31 or 30, and no one actually does that. People retire at 65 or 67. I had no idea about FIRE or financial independence or anything like that. Before this, my definition of a rich people were the people on lifestyles of the rich and famous, driving around fancy cars and yachts and flying around in helicopters. I didn't know there was a whole other piece to it. So as soon as I figured out his blog was real, which was a short time after discovering it, I ran out and talked to you and said, hey, this FI thing, I'm stressed at work. I don't want to work at my job anymore, or I want to work at it for as long as I have to, and then I want to quit. This guy with a mustache on the internet said that I could retire pretty soon because we were already savers. We already had significant savings, but we never had a plan for it. We didn't know why we were doing it. We just knew it was the right thing to do. So I said this to Mindy. I'm like, hey, I want to do this thing. Let's buy an even cheaper house, and let's really put the screws down on our finances and figure out how to make this happen as soon as possible. And what did you say?
Yes, absolutely. 100% quit your job. It makes you miserable. We'll figure it out.
It's kind of amusing that I ran out of my office and confronted is too strong of a word, told you about this mustache guy on the internet, and you instantly were on board with it. I am very thankful for it. That was an inflection point in our lives. It
was. Also, everything you just said was like one big run-on sentence.
Yes, it was a big run-on sentence.
Take a breath.
One real quick thing. I always breathe heavy, and I'm trying to really cut that out on the recording. So I'm sorry if you've heard me breathing heavy on the podcast before. I try to edit it out. Super creepy, yeah. People are probably listening to it and they're like, who's that creep you're listening to? Is that some prank phone call? Some like heavy breathing person? No, I'm not a creep. At least I don't think so, but I'm my biggest fan. Anyway, the other component to the story is everything I told you happened back in October 2012. And as I hinted at, part of our plan was to downsize houses. At the time, we did not like where we lived, so we were going to move back to where we had just moved from. That was the Midwest. And I'm like, hey, let's give Colorado another chance. I'm going to email this mustache person from the internet, if he's even a real person. And I had figured out he lived in Longmont. So I'm like, let's send him an email, see what he has to say about Longmont, and maybe we could check that out. It was my Hail Mary to stay in Colorado. And it turned out he returned my email, and we ended up moving here. So pretty weird situation. If I had not done that Google query, I would have never found financial independence, or I might have, but it would have been a lot later. And if I had not emailed him, or if Mr. Money Mustache had not returned that email, we'd probably be living in another state. So a couple really weird things, some of those very brief moments in life, like turn your life around. I'd like to think it turned ours around for the better.
It did. Oh, it absolutely did. To elaborate on that, you left out some things after you said, I'm going to quit my job. I'm like, do it. You're like, and I'm going to start a blog. I'm like, that's such a stupid idea.
And then the blog was actually kind of successful. I just did it for myself because I like to write, but then people read it. And one of the effects of having a blog was, I'm like, whoa, I'm a blogger now. Let's go to a blogger conference. So we went to FinCon, and this is where your part of the story picks up. This part is even better.
We went to FinCon, and it was held in St. Louis in 2013. And Carl was doing the bulk of the writing, but not all of the writing. I was still a stay-at-home mom, and we left our two kids with my parents so we could go and attend this event. And I was just so excited to learn. I'm not a techie person, and I was excited to learn different things that they were teaching, how to promote your blogs, how to make video content, which back then was still kind of new. They break out into like 4 different breakout sessions at a time. So I was going to choose one every single time frame they had a breakout session. And the last one of the day, I walked in. There weren't a lot of seats left, but I found one in the very front row, all the way inside by the wall. So I sat down. I'm not really paying attention to what other people are doing. It's still a few minutes before it's going to start. And I'm taking notes. And then these two guys get on stage and they start talking about technology. And I'm like, oh, that's not my jam at all. I either misread what this show or what this presentation was about, or I walked into the wrong room. I'll just leave. So I go to stand up, and I notice that there is now standing room only. Every chair is filled. Everybody in this room clearly knows who these two guys are except me. And I'm in the front row all the way inside. So the most disruptive I could possibly be if I left. So I'm like, well, I guess I'm going to learn this today. So I sat there, and I was half-heartedly listening. These guys have a website where people talk about real estate. I was like, I cannot believe there is a website where people talk about real estate because it's very competitive locally. So I went on this website, and it was like my guilty pleasure. I don't think I ever told you this. I was a stay-at-home mom. I don't need to be on the internet ever. So I would like sneak onto Bigger Pockets, and just I was so excited. Like, I want to see if anybody's asking a question that I can answer. And they finally did. And I started talking with people online, and I was like, oh my goodness, I'm helping people. I feel like I'm part of this community. I'm so excited. And then they posted a job that is literally perfect for me in every single way, except I was still a stay-at-home mom. And you were working, and we had little kids. Daphne wasn't starting kindergarten until August, and they posted this job in April. And I was so angry that I wasn't going to get this job that I closed my computer and I didn't go on the site for another week, like a whole solid week. And then and I was stewing the whole time too. I'm like, man, this would be perfect for me. And then I looked back and I started reading that specific thread again. And somebody asked, how long is this job open? And Josh Dorkin, the founder of Bigger Pockets, said, it's open until we fill it. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to apply. So I sent him, there was this very regimented step-by-step how you applied. And I was like so nervous that I was going to do it wrong. I kept going back and forth and back and forth. And I finally submitted it. And within like 10 minutes, Josh Dorkin emailed me back and he's like, hey, could we hop on a Skype call? I don't think Josh knows this. I'm like, I don't know how to use Skype. But you did. And I started talking to Josh. He's like, I know you. I'm like, yeah, we met a couple years ago at this event. He's like, I want to get Brandon on the phone too. I'm like, you're going to put Brandon Turner on the phone with me and Josh Dorkin on the phone with me? I'm just going to like melt into oblivion. But long story short, too late. I got the job and I have been at Bigger Pockets ever since. And I was the community manager for 6 years, which morphed into the host of the Bigger Pockets Money podcast and attending events and talking about real estate and money forever, which is kind of my jam. I don't know if anybody's listened to the Bigger Pockets Money podcast that's listened to this show, but yeah, I talk about it a lot and I'm super excited about it. So, and none of that would have happened if you hadn't had a crappy day at work and Googled, how do I retire early?
That's awesome. 2 follow-up things. You said you had to sneak away and look at this website. I wouldn't have had any issue with you looking at that website. It's not.
But what am I doing wasting my time on the internet?
I don't know.
I'm supposed to be playing with little kids.
It's better than a lot of other things that people look at on the internet, and I'll leave it at that.
Shopping.
Yes, shopping. The other thing I'll mention, I believe when you applied that one of their litmus tests or one of the things they judged applicants on, so keep this in mind if you want to apply for a job there, is that you knew that Bigger Pockets was all one word. A lot of people would do bigger space pockets.
Oh, no. I screwed it up.
Oh,
on
you
my
screwed it up.
Yeah, on my Josh asked me to bring in a resume, and I had been a stay-at-home mom for 8 years. And before that, I was selling quilting supplies and working in advertising, neither of which would help me become the community manager for Bigger Pockets. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to write out all the real estate deals I've done and describe those. And I brought that to him for our interview, and he's like, well, first off, you spelled the company's name wrong. And I was like, oh my God, he's not going to hire me just because they spelled the company's name wrong. Apparently everybody does. But yes, it's Bigger Pockets, all one word. Thank you for the clarification. And Bigger Pockets is hiring, biggerpockets.com/jobs.
We'll talk about Bigger Pockets more in a moment. So that was our origin story. Before this, we were good savers. We didn't really know what to do with our money. We invested in individual stocks and we flipped houses. But then when we discovered FI, we discovered a whole new world of investing, books, podcasts, blog posts, and events. So right now, let's discuss some of our favorites. The first one is books. Let's talk about books we love. I'll take the first one. The first one is The Simple Path to Wealth by J.L. Collins. This is the one that makes the case for index funds. There are plenty of books that do this, but J.L. is very good. His words make a lot of sense. It is a fun read. He's got personal anecdotes in there. So I really like this one. You can also find a lot of the information online on his website, jlcollinsnh.com, which we'll post a link to in the show notes.
It would have been really great if we had grabbed a copy of all of these books and like held them up during the video, because we have a copy of all these books at our house.
Yeah.
So just pretend.
We'll just show the bull instead.
There you go. Hold him up.
Yeah, I love the bull.
Okay. Why are you holding him so his feet show? Hold so his face shows.
They have hooves. They don't have feet.
Are they on the ground or they stand on them? They're feet.
I don't know. They're hooves.
Well, they're also feet. Did you know what I was talking about?
No. Okay, next.
Anyway, next up is Set for Life, written by Scott Trench. Scott Trench is my co-host on the Bigger Pockets Money podcast, and he wrote a book in 2017 called Set for Life. And it details the ways that you can set yourself up for a really great financial life by making small tweaks when you're younger. It is written towards a younger audience, I would say college age or just after college, but that doesn't mean you can't read it if you're 50. It's geared towards younger adults, and therefore some of the message may not be as relevant if you're in your 50s. But it's a great book to give to college-age kids who are just reaching their young adulthood and wanting to go out into the world. And, you know, if I had had this book when I graduated college, maybe I would have had a even higher net worth when we got married.
Maybe? Wow. Way to rub it in.
You're welcome.
One of us had a higher net worth, and it was not me. I'll bet you can guess who it is. Okay, I'll go over the next two. One I'm going to add spontaneously. It is not on the outline, and that one is Poor Charlie's Almanac. It's kind of the opposite of the Simple Path to Wealth. If you're really interested in investing in companies, this will tell you how to do that, but even better, it tells you how to be a good person and how to think and just be a well-adjusted person in society. Mental models is what I'm thinking about here. The other one I'll mention really quick, and this one was quite profound for me, is The Millionaire Next Door. So I mentioned that Stupid Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous show that used to be on TV, and like I said, that was my idea of a millionaire. I thought rich people wore monocles, top hats, rode around in helicopters, jets, owned yachts and houses on the French Riviera. And then I read that, I'm like, no. It's people who drive pickup trucks, who own small businesses, who just save well, and they're stealth. It's stealth wealth, and I think that ties in perfectly to the FIRE movement, because all of us are pretty stealthy too. You don't see many of us driving Lamborghinis or helicopters. Although if you wanted to buy me the Lamborghini, as I've mentioned in a previous episode, you're free to do that to me. I'll take you
Thanks.
to White Castle and the fancy restaurant.
Can you imagine going to White Castle in a Lamborghini?
That's my dream. I remember when we were in California and someone had a super fancy high-end Porsche and they were in the In-N-Out drive-thru. I'm like, that's
In-N-Out,
awesome.
that's different.
Yeah, but it's like a $300,000 Porsche, like a GT3. I forget which one.
In-N-Out is the Lamborghini of fast food hamburger restaurants.
Overrated.
I'm done.
It's good.
In-N-Out,
It's not great.
I love you.
Okay. Last one. What is the last one?
Last one is The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. This book was so eye-opening when I read this book. I absolutely loved everything about this book. And as I was reading it, I'm like, this must, you start in on this journey, or you start reading all of these books. The Millionaire Next Door is from what, the 90s?
Yeah.
And so is Vicki Robin, Your Money or Your Life. So those were like existing books. But this Morgan Housel book is like 2 or 3 years old now. And I'm like, this is an instant classic. This is like one of the books that is going to be on that list of, people's favorite books. Oh, look, there, it's on this list of people's favorite books. But it's going to be the book that people give to other people when they want them to know about money. All of these books are available on Amazon, at your local bookseller. You can get them at your library. I just want you to consume the content. It's a really, really great set of books.
And Morgan Housel is a super great storyteller. I think that's the primary thing he does well. I mean, he's brilliant about money, but he wraps stories around money that makes it super fun to learn about. So, yay, Morgan. Before we get into the next part, do you know what the number one rule of rock and roll is? Or what I thought it was?
If it's too loud, you're too old.
No, that might be it. So mine might be number 2. You're not supposed to wear your own T-shirt. Like Axl Rose and Guns N' Roses would wear a Guns N' Roses T-shirt on stage, and that's like a violation. It's just ridiculous. Have you ever seen an artist wear their own T-shirt?
Yeah, it's like meta.
Okay, yeah, it's kind of, I don't know, it seems self-indulgent or egotistical, but I think it's kind of funny. We're going to talk about podcasts, and we have some of our own podcasts on here. So we're violating the number 1 or perhaps the number 2 rule of rock and roll with this section.
That's okay. I'm not a rock and roller. Nobody's ever met me and been like, she jams.
I am. I've seen you in leather before.
A leather jacket doesn't count.
Sort of.
Oh, shush. Okay. We have some favorite podcasts that we want to talk about. Let's put ours at the bottom and let's talk about these instead. The first one, Side Hustle Nation with Nick Loper. I love this podcast because Nick interviews a different person each week about their side hustle, how they make money, how they do it. It really gets into the nitty-gritty of that specific job or side job. And when you are on your path to financial independence, that is a really great stepping stone, a really great helper to help you fund your Roth IRA if you're not making so much money, or help you fund your 401k if you're not making a ton of money, or just help you save more, save in after-tax investments.
Cool. I have 2 that I will mention before we get to our other podcasts. The first one is Animal Spirits. This is Michael Batnick and Ben Carlson. They are super entertaining and fun. I really enjoy that one. The other one is probably the biggest one there is in the FI community, and that is Choose FI. Brad Bear is super professional. He gets great guests on there, and he just wants to help people. I would trust whatever Brad told me.
Yes, I would too. He is a very intelligent man. And I'm super glad that he started ChooseFi because it pops up again in our Facebook groups list.
Yes. Should we talk about our other ones for a brief amount of time? Again, violating the rock and roll rule.
Yes, I'll go first. I am the host of the Bigger Pockets Money podcast. Scott Trench and I every week come at you twice a week with a story of somebody's journey to financial independence. And sometimes we will do a review of their finances.
And my other podcast is Mile High Fi. Do not listen to that with kids in the car. Unlike this podcast, sometimes we say naughty words on there and talk about some weird things like asparagus.
Who made this for you?
That was Chris. I'm not sure who actually made it, but Chris gave it to me. Chris, our producer. Thank you, Chris. If you're watching on YouTube, Mindy is holding up. Is that knitted?
This
cross stitch?
This is embroidery.
I don't know these terms.
I know that. Clearly you don't. Okay. So somebody, Chris, made a embroidered asparagus with Carl's name and Mile High Fi underneath. And if you want to know why they talk about asparagus all the time, look up Asparagine and listen to the show.
Cool. Let's talk about our favorite blog posts.
Ooh, I have one more. The Catching Up to Fi podcast, hosted by Bill Yount and Jackie Cummings-Koski. That is the podcast that tells the story of the late starter, the person who maybe didn't discover financial independence in their 30s. They discovered it in their 40s or 50s and are concerned that they won't be able to retire. So that's a great podcast. If you are getting a little bit of a later start, definitely check them out.
Cool. Let's talk about our favorite blog posts. You go first.
Okay. Along the same lines of the Side Hustle Nation, budgetsaresexy.com has a blog post called 80 plus ways to make extra money. It is just a list of other blog posts that have side hustles on them. So he has interviewed at least 80 people about their side hustle and collected it all in one spot. Ooh. Now, the next blog post is yours. Again, meta or breaking the number one rule of rock and roll, which doesn't even count because this isn't rock and roll. It's called Death March to Fi, and it's on 1500days.com.
Yes, this is how not to do it. Do as we say, not as we do. We worked too hard, and we did well with money, but not so well with life. So check that out. All these will be in the show notes, by the way. Next one is the Mad Fientist. This is a legend in the FI community. How to access retirement funds early.
Yes, this is an old post, but he keeps it updated. The most recent update that I have seen is June of 2024, and we're recording this in July of 2024, so it's pretty recent. He tells you, pretty apparent, but he tells you how you can access your retirement funds early, your tax-deferred accounts.
The last ones I'll talk about are from Mr. Money Mustache. He's had a lot of different posts. A lot of them are about money. One of his most popular ones is probably the shockingly simple math behind early retirement. And that's a great one. He breaks down the money very simply. But my favorites actually have nothing to do with money, and they are one about optimism and confidence. I'll link to both of these in the show notes. And I think these are so important because the money stuff might not be easy, but it's not that hard to learn. Everyone knows index funds and blah, 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 save more than you spend and that. But if you really want to live life right and become the best example of yourself that you can be, Mr. Money Mustache has a lot of really, really great advice on that. Some of it's along the lines of stoicism, but I've really enjoyed those posts, and I think those are the most important, at least to me, on his site. Again, we'll link to them in the show notes.
We'll link to all of this in the show notes. It's going to be a whopper of a show notes.
Yeah. And this next section is my favorite because I think this is the best way to get engaged in the financial independence community. Even if you're a severe introvert like me and are terrified of new people, going to events is super powerful. Why don't you talk about the first one?
The first one is BPCon, or Bigger Pockets Conference. It is in October 6th through 8th, 2024, in Cancun, Mexico. Carl and I will both be there. We will be talking about all things real estate. Carl's going to be there a little. I'm going to be there a lot. That's kind of my job. I'm going to be talking the whole time. If you would like to join us at this event, you can use the code Mindy200, Mindy200, to get $200 off your registration.
Yeah, so I'm probably going to be hanging out by the pool, maybe even without my shirt off. I didn't get this body just sitting around doing podcasts all day, so I gotta flaunt it a little bit. I'm just kidding. If you see me, look away, because my very white skin will probably blind you with the sun bouncing off of it. Or it might be red by that point.
It'll probably be red.
Okay. Economy. This is a super good one. How many times have we been? I've been one more time than you because I was a speaker there.
I've been twice.
Yeah. I gave a super cool speech there. We'll link to that in the show notes. But this is really neat. This one is a little bit bigger and less intimate. What is there, 500 to 600 people?
About, yes.
But it is super fun, and if you go, you can have Skyline Chili, which is awesome. Mindy loves it and loves to talk about it.
That's not true.
And they have White Castle there, too. Just saying.
Oh, I didn't go to White Castle last time. Okay, you can go with me to White Castle, or you can go with Carl and get yucky chili. Pumpkin spice chili. Okay.
This next one you have been on, but I have not.
Yeah, well, we missed one.
Oh, oops. Okay. Oh, yeah, go back.
We were just at Campfire. How could we miss this? Okay, so another in-person FI event that we have both been to many times and really, really love is called Camp Fi, and you can find it at campfi.org. Some of these next year's events have already sold out, which tells you how awesome the event is. However, there are still tickets available for some of next year's events, and there's tickets available for a couple of the Camp Fi's in 2024. If you want to sit around with a bunch of financial independence nerds and talk about money, Camp Fi is for you. If you don't want to talk about money, Camp Fi is still for you. There's a lot of conversations that don't revolve around money at Camp Fi. It's a whole long weekend, usually over a holiday weekend, and it is a super, super, super lot of fun.
This next one you were on, but I was not. What is this?
This is the Fin Talks cruise hosted by Amberly Grant. We have already done a recap episode of this cruise. I had such a great time. Sorry that you couldn't come. But we will be on next year's cruise, February 2nd through 8th, 2025. It's a Royal Caribbean cruise leaving from someplace in Florida and going to Jamaica and Haiti currently scheduled, but there may be an update to the itinerary. There were 65 people last time. This year there's going to be more than 100. And what makes it so awesome is Royal Caribbean has an app that you can connect with all the different people from your group in. And we had one big group chat where people would post, I'm going to be at the hot tub at 8 o'clock. Oh, I don't want to go to the hot tub today. I'm going to go to the game show night at 9:30. Ooh, that sounds like something I want to do. So there was always somebody doing something. And as you were walking around the boat, you start to recognize people's faces like, oh, you're with my group. You're with my group. But there was never anything that was so mandatory that you had to, give up your own flow. So it was a really fun experience. And again, Carl and I will be there.
And again, if you're on the cruise, go by the pool and look for me. Look for the very, very
pasty?
Yeah, pasty person. Do not make eye contact with my skin or you might be blinded.
Yeah, definitely wear your sunglasses when you look at Carl.
And I think if you're watching on YouTube, I'm holding up my little bull model. I think I'm going to bring it with.
I am not going through TSA with you if you take that.
We are. You should be watching this on YouTube. This bull is going to be here, and this bull will be by the pool with me.
Look at these pointy, pokey, sharp things.
I'll check it in, I guess. I don't think this isn't a weapon, is it? I guess it could be. You could do some damage with this.
Here, let me check. Let me try.
Okay, so come hang out with me at the pool with the bull and not Mindy. Mindy will not be there because apparently she does not like the bull.
I'll be there. I'm just not going to play with your bull. That sounded weird. Okay, last but not least, all of the ones that we have listed already do have an entrance fee. Most of them are not located where you are, so you would have to fly there, get a hotel, yada, yada. But there is a place that you can go where it is free or a very nominal fee. And that's the local Choose Fi meetups. You can find these meetups at choosefi.com/local. They have Facebook groups that you can join that are specific to your area. There's a Northern Colorado Facebook group for ChooseFi. There's also a Denver Facebook group for ChooseFi. We should probably have a Longmont one.
Yeah.
Given all the Longmont nerds. But we will go, when we're traveling, we will join a local Facebook group and host an event. And it's a great way to meet new people in the Fi community, and you instantly have things in common. It's just such a fun way to connect with new people.
Cool. One section that we'll go over really quick are Facebook groups.
So first we'll say the ChooseFi ones, like I just said, ChooseFi and the ChooseFi local groups. I think there's like 275 local groups, so you could probably find one in your area. However, if you can't, email Brad at choosefi.com and ask him to start one in your area.
You could take the next one.
Yeah. The next one is called Go With Less. It is primarily talking about travel and a little bit less about house sitting and pet sitting. Most of the people in this group are financially independent, but they're not really connected to the Fi movement. There's plenty that are, but it's not so much talking about money. It's more focused on travel. But it was started by Amy and Tim Rutherford.
Cool.
The next one up is the Women's Personal Finance Group. This is on Facebook, like all of these other ones are. And this is specifically for women and those who identify as women. Sorry, Carl. But we talk about specific to women issues. And it was born out of a couple of posts in other Facebook groups where a woman would ask a question about a specifically woman issue, and men would respond with, "Why do you even care?"
Oof. A couple more. Mile High Fi, which is open to everyone who likes asparagus.
I'm in there.
Really? Okay. Well, now you like asparagus.
Oh, that's not how that works.
Bigger Pockets Money.
Bigger Pockets Money. We have a Facebook group. Camp Fi has a great Facebook group. Economy, the Economy Conference, has a Facebook group. When you're looking for it, remember that economy is spelled ECONOME, not MY. Anybody out there in the military, my friend David Perret has a group called From Military to Millionaire, and it discusses military-specific things regarding finances and financial independence. And the last one that I want to mention is my friend Nick Loper's group called Side Hustle Nation, where they're talking specifically about side hustles.
I'm going to throw in one more, and then I have a closing thought, just like Jerry Springer used to do. The one I was going to mention was started by my friend Leaf, who was the physician on fire. He started a Fat Fire group for people who want to live large and save a little bit more than the rest. Those are the people like you who want to buy their spouse a Lamborghini to go to White Castle with.
I don't want to buy my spouse a Lamborghini.
The thing I love about all these different groups, all these different events, all these different podcasts is there's so many different derivations of fire now, and there's so many ways to do it, and there is something for everyone. If you're the type who wants to eat beans and rice, read Early Retirement Extreme and retire on $80,000 or whatever that guy did. If you want to retire rich, like maybe the Physician on Fire, there's the Fat Fire group. It's become a lot more inclusive at this point and a lot more diverse, which I think is great for everyone.
Yep. And we would love to hear from you. We have a Facebook group, Mindy on Money, and we want to know what your favorite resources are. What is your favorite Facebook group, your favorite event, your favorite blog post or podcast or book? We would also love to hear your origin stories. If you'd like to share your origin stories on the Mindy on Money podcast, email Mindy at mindyonmoney.com or Carl at mindyonmoney.com.
Look for Mindy, me, and the bowl at a future financial independence event. This bowl is going to come to all of them. I hope I don't lose it. I got to put one of those labels on it. I'm not good at keeping track of things.
Anything?
I'd be heartbroken if I lost the bowl. Although I don't think we've even given him a name yet. It is a him. I just looked at his.
It's a bull.
Undercarriage.
Do they have women bulls?
I don't know. Are there any cows that have horns on them?
Yeah, the longhorn cows.
Okay, so it could have been like a cow, but
I'm not a cowologist. I don't know.
it's got bull boy parts on the bottom, so it's not a cow. It's an actual bull.
But that's what I'm saying. I don't think bulls can be women. I think, or female. I think they have to be male.
Yeah.
I think they're just male.
But we've established that a cow could have horns, so people could think this is a cow unless they
It's a bull.
touch the bottom of it. But you just said cows could have horns.
Oh, you are so confusing.
I don't know. I'm confused. If should we get a little Speedo for him so he's inappropriate on the boat on the cruise ship?
So he's inappropriate? He's already inappropriate.
I meant so he's appropriate, so he doesn't show his bull bits on the cruise.
Okay, well, this is a disaster and nobody's still listening now. So thanks, bye.
Do we have to have a PG-13 rating? I don't know. By bull
Yes!
bits, I meant his horns because they could be
You
dangerous.
did not mean that. And also, I want a PG-13 rating so people will listen to this in the car with their kids.
Well, PG-13 would be a little bit. We don't want a PG-13.
I want a G rating.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You make it very difficult to keep this G.
I think we went past G today.
I think everybody's already gone.
Yeah. Is anyone still listening? Send a nice message to Carl at MindyOnMoney.com, or if you were dissatisfied with the ending to this, Mindy at MindyOnMoney.com.
There's a Duran Duran song. It goes, "Is there anyone out there?" And then in the song it goes, "Oh," but I can hear everybody saying, "No." We're done. Okay, thanks. Bye.
Bye.